fight cancelled. Angela Hill against Ashley Yoder has died. And so this fight will be starting a bit later than usual. What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here tonight, man. Really appreciate it. Obviously, there's lots of better things you could be doing on a Saturday night. So I really appreciate you being here so that, you know, hopefully I can maybe reward you with some betting action. Who knows? But we need to, we definitely need to turn that off. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't know my emails were open. That'll just keep going. So we'll get rid of that. But hey, how is everyone doing, man? Hope you're all doing good. Hope you're all doing very, very good, guys. And yes, in this live stream, we are going to be digging for a prop bet on every single fight. If you guys could let me know if you can hear me and see me everywhere, if everything's working fight good, cancel. That would be great. So the stream's working on my website. That is always a good sign. Let me know if it's working on YouTube and Twitch, and then we'll get going. Nice one, everyone. Also give people a little bit more time to turn up. Well, I could go through the boring stuff before they turn up. What is up? What's up, Jax? Good to see you, mate. Good to see you, mate. Let me know. What's up, Artem? Good to see you, dude. Let's go. Alright, let's get into it. So, prop bets for UFC Fight Night Rozenstruik versus Gane. So obviously, I don't know if you guys look at my results videos that I put out every Monday. On Mondays, I kind of do a recap video where I just go over my betting performance from the previous week. So I talk about prop bets in that video. You can see this is the one that I put out. No, it isn't. This is the one that I put out last Monday where I went through my results. They don't get as many views as the breakdown videos though, so I'm never sure if people actually see the results of the bets that I share with you guys on a week-to-week basis. But anyway, prop bets from last week were profitable. Not a major profit, only 2 units, but we did have a couple of near misses. We almost had Imavov to win in round 3 against Hose, which would have been a big winner. Hose was in some trouble in that 3rd round, and also we had O'Neal to win by submission at like 9.0, which almost hit, but Dobson wouldn't give up the submission, and O'Neal ended up getting a win by ground and pound instead. So those were two bets that would have obviously put us at a much bigger profit. But anyway, last week was a profit, so hopefully we could bank another profit on these props. So as ever, there is a disclaimer with these bets. So prop bets are highly, highly, highly risky. My style of prop betting is to take a spread betting approach to props. What that means is you're going to get huge swings and you're going to get weeks where every single bet loses. That's just the way it is. So, for example, we're not going to be betting props on the most likely outcome because the most likely outcome always has short odds. So to give you an example of that, you know, the most likely outcome in the fight between Alexander Hernandez and Thiago Moises probably going to be Hernandez to win by decision. But if we look at the odds on that, we can see that Hernandez to win by decision is 2.05, which is a really, really bad risk to reward ratio, because in MMA, it's hard enough to predict who's going to win a fight, right? If this guy's going to win or if this guy's going to win. When we add method of victory into the mix, it adds a whole nother layer of variables, which just makes it much harder to make money from betting on, you know, highly predictable or highly specific outcomes like method of victory. So my strategy for prop bets is completely different. I take kind of like a spread betting roulette approach to prop bets, where, you know, if you were to go and place, you know, your money on a roulette wheel, on a roulette table on 13 black, obviously if the wheel spins and the ball lands on any other number, which is likely to, because you've put all your money, you know, on one number, you lose, right? But if you spread your money out across lots of numbers on that roulette table, you've got more chance of winning. Now, obviously, over the long term, you can't win at roulette. You know, the house has got the edge, the casino's got the statistical edge. Whereas, because we do so much fight research, we know our shit, we know a lot about MMA, we have the edge here. So this spread betting approach with prop bets can be really effective. But, because we are going for high risk, high reward bets, as opposed to likely bets, the swings are absolutely huge, and you can see that in our profitability chart. So since we started tracking results on these props 2 years ago, we are up about 22 units. But obviously this comes with brutal swings, massive upswings, massive downswings. So we've got tons of disclaimers here. And the disclaimer basically is, don't go too big on these props, man. Only go small, because the swings are wild and they can destroy your bankroll. Because as you can see, if you would have gone big and aggressive on prop bets on one of these downswings, you would have got absolutely destroyed. You would have lost, massive chunks of your bankroll. So be very careful. They are profitable long term, but on any given night, you've got to expect, every bet of these to lose. And on top of that, the majority of these bets will lose. My strategy for prop bets is always the same. If one bet wins, we're probably going to be at a small loss. If two bets win, we're going to be at a small profit. And then the real strategy is to try and hit 3 or 4 bets on a card where you can start to make a significant profit. That's the basic strategy. And we came close last week, but missed out slightly. 2 wins, to give us a small profit. But I do want to make it very clear. It's very important to make it clear that gambling is also a form of entertainment. So throughout the week, we're putting in 20 to 30 hours of fight research every single week, and we take this very seriously. We take the time to go very deep on these fights from a gambling perspective, to understand how these fighters match up technically. But it's important to remember that some people just gamble for fun, right? Entire cities were built on gambling as a form of entertainment. Atlantic City, Las Vegas, Macau. And so prop bets are a really good way of placing small amounts of money on each fight to make watching each fight interesting, while giving yourself the opportunity to make big gains on each fight, because obviously we're taking those props with a really high risk to reward ratio. So I just want to set that stall out early on, because if I don't, what I tend to get throughout these live streams is people going, the best prop on Alexis Davis against Sabina Mazo is Mazo by decision. Just bet that. And I would agree with you. Problem is, Mazo to win by decision has a really bad risk to reward ratio. So over the long term, it's very hard to make a profit on these kind of bets. I'd much rather go for something crazy, like Mazo to win in round 3 at 17.0. Just because she does tend to start slow, pick it up and get more aggressive as the fight goes on. She beat her last opponent, Justine Kish, in the 3rd round. And we know Alexis Davis tends to take a lot of damage as the fight goes on. So the probability goes up as the fight goes on that Davis is going to get stopped later. So this is just that one piece of content I put out every week where we could just have a little bit of fun, loosen up a bit, not take things so seriously, and hopefully even betting like degenerate, reckless maniacs, at the end of the day we can still come out on profit, which the profitability chart shows us we can. And of course, we will also be sharing some parlays, as well. I don't know if these parlays are profitable long term. Again, just like prop bets, they're high risk, high reward. So the majority of these prop bets lose. The majority of these parlays lose. However, I don't track results on these just because I've never got around to doing it. I need to get Hiltsy, if you're watching, dude. Hiltsy, maybe you can hook us up, mate. And maybe you can track the results of these parlays for us. But anyway, the one last thing that I wanted to say was, let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you think as we go. Anyway, let's get into it. So, first prop that I like the look of on this card is Dustin Jacoby to win by decision at odds of 3.0. And if we go into this fight, I will give you my reasoning why. So obviously you're not getting the best risk to reward ratio on Jacoby to win by decision. It is only 3.0, which is plus 200. So not a huge reward for this bet. But having said that, I do think it's really, really likely that this wins, for a few reasons. So Dustin Jacoby's from a traditional kickboxing background. We can see he's got tons of fights from Glory, which is obviously a kickboxing promotion. So he's a very, very high-level striker. But I would say Jacoby is much more of a volume striker than a power striker. So he breaks guys down with pressure and volume, which means the probability of Jacoby just landing that one kill shot and knocking someone out isn't that likely. Jacoby tends to stop guys once he racks up a lot of damage on them over, a good period of time. But we know Maxim Grishin is a very tough Russian. He's not going to be easy to stop. He's very good defensively. He's got good footwork, good head movement. And Maxim Grishin's also one of these fighters that puts defense first. So Maxim Grishin's not one of these guys that you're going to see come out, look to take his opponent out, inflict a ton of damage on him, and look to get a finish here. It's like Darren Till says, in order to get a finish, you often have to put yourself in a position to be finished. And Grishin's just not that kind of guy. He likes to focus on defending himself, not taking damage, and then if the finish comes to him, through maybe his opponent being a little bit reckless or getting tired, like we saw in his last fight against Gadzhimurov and Tugulov, then so be it. So Jacoby's very aggressive. He is dangerous. He does inflict, a big amount of damage in his fights because of the amount of strikes that he throws. He's a very high volume striker. But I think Grishin's going to be quite happy to play the role of Matador here, get on his bike, circle away from Jacoby, and just use Jacoby's forward pressure against him to pick him off from the outside. If we take a look at Grishin's record, he's obviously massively experienced. He's fought all over the world, consistently against some of the best fighters in the world for a very long time, in PFL, ACB, M1 Global, now the UFC. And we can see he's racked up, almost 40 career fights, or over 40 career fights, against a really, good level of opponent. And if we look at his record, we can see that not many guys have managed to stop him. So this loss here went to a decision. This loss here was stopped very late on by Magomed Ankalaev, who's fighting tonight. But then this loss again, very late on in the 5th round. This loss was a submission. And then got stopped 3 times very, very early on in his career. But it's tough to count them because obviously, when you're early in your career, you're still learning. And you're obviously more likely to be finished when you're early on in your career. You just haven't developed those skills yet to develop yourself. So over 40 pro fights against a really good level of opponent, Grishin's only been finished 1, 2, 3. In fact, let's disregard submissions because Jacoby's a pure striker. He's not going to be able to cause Grishin a problem on the ground. So let's just include finishes due to strikes. So that would be 1, 2, 3. So Grishin's only been stopped with strikes 3 times in 41 pro fights, making it pretty unlikely Jacoby's going to get a stoppage here. On top of that, I always say the devil is in the detail. One of these stoppages came very, very early on in Grishin's career, when he probably hadn't developed the kind of striking defense that he would need to defend himself against a tough guy like Shane Del Rosario. We could see back then Griffin pretty inexperienced at 2-2. Rosario was 6-0, and we know Shane Del Rosario went on to have a decent career. So we can kind of disregard that. And his other 2 losses due to strikes were deep in the fights, right? 5th round, 4th round, which would suggest maybe he was just tired in the later stage of the fight and he couldn't defend himself. This is a 3-round fight. Grishin's gas tank is pretty good, so we shouldn't worry about that. So, why do I think Jacoby to win by decision is a good bet? So we've established that, it's unlikely Jacoby can finish Grishin. We've established that, Grishin's one of these guys that puts defense first, so he's unlikely to go out there and look to take Jacoby out. He's more likely to try and outpoint Jacoby and fight safe. And we know Jacoby's got a great chin and he's very tough. So I like Jacoby to win this by decision because, for me, Grishin is just a guy who is kind of going through the motions and doesn't need to fight anymore. Even though he hasn't been in the UFC that long, this guy is still a millionaire. Like, make no mistake, Maxim Grishin is paid as fuck. This guy hasn't got a worry in the world. If we go to his Instagram profile, we can see him chilling in expensive designer clothes. Very nice Stone Island jacket here. I think this is CP Company. He's regularly, got pictures on his Instagram driving supercars. Here he is hanging out with Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's got friends in high places. There he is with Alexander Volkov. And if we scroll a little bit further down, we can see him in his younger days with some very, very good friends in high places, Vladimir Putin. So Grishin, from a very young age, has seen his career bankrolled by Russian leaders such as Vladimir Putin. You could also see a picture of him with, here he is with Kadyrov. Kadyrov is the Chechen dictator who bankrolls a lot of fighters' careers and who also, obviously, really drives MMA as the national sport of Chechnya. And Maxim Grishin trains at Akhmat Fight Team, which is the gym completely bankrolled by Kadyrov. So, when you see Grishin, rocking designer clothes, hanging out with Vladimir Putin, Kadyrov, driving supercars, this guy doesn't really need to fight anymore. And I think we're seeing that in his performances. He's a millionaire, he's paid, he's taken care of forever, he's had over 40 pro fights. And when you look at his recent performances against Marcin Tybura, Gadzhimurov Antigulov, even a little bit against Jordan Johnson, you could just see that the fire's not there anymore. He doesn't want to compete anymore. He's quite happy to just kind of focus on defending himself, not taking any damage, and just making it through the fight. And if he loses a decision, so be it, because he's going back to his fucking mansion in Russia, on the mountains of Chechnya, with his Ferrari, and he's chilling. It's all good. You can see this guy's lost the fire. So for me, when you look at Jacoby and Grishin, Grishin's one of these guys that ruthlessly aggressive. He's got the fire. He's got the aggression. He's got the desire and the will to win. Grishin doesn't. So it's very likely Jacoby outworks Grishin over 3 rounds. But Grishin doesn't want to be going back to his mansion in Chechnya all busted up, damaged, injured. So he's going to use his skills in reverse to defend himself and fight relatively safe. So I think Jacoby by decision, it ain't bad. It's not bad. It's alright. We'll take that. What's up, Blondie Adventures? Whoa, there's my wife. She's out with her friends at the moment. I hope she's not watching this with her friends, because that would mean, well, her Saturday night sucks pretty bad. You know what? I'm not even sure I should even say she's seeing their friends, because I think that might be illegal these days. But fuck it. We'll keep going. What's up, babe? Blondie Adventures in the chat. I'll answer your questions as well, guys, as soon as we've got through these bets. I'll answer your questions. Corona. Oh. Anyway. Woo. Corona cough. That's not good. Wait a minute. 2 seconds. Oh my god, Corona cough. Anyway, we're back, guys. We're back. Okay, next prop. There was me giving this huge speech at the beginning of the live stream about how we're only going to go for props with a high risk, high reward. And then the first 2 props I pull out my ass are at really short odds. So, complete contradiction, but what can you do? Next prop I'm going to go for is Vince Cachero to win by decision, odds of 3.50 plus 250. So why do I like this one? First of all, I think there's a very, very high probability that this fight goes the distance, just because neither guy is particularly dangerous. If you look at Vince Cachero's fighting style, even though a good amount of fights have ended inside the distance, I always say the devil is in the detail, and when you look at this guy's style, he's just not that dangerous. Moves very well, he's very aggressive, he fights at a high pace, but he just doesn't have that much power in his hands. If you look at his record, doesn't have that many wins by knockout. In fact, only has 1 win by knockout. You can see all of his finishes tend to come by submission. But that's unlikely here because Ronnie Lawrence has got a base in grappling. And I think Ronnie Lawrence is, at a level on the ground where Cachero's not going to be able to cause him a problem. So the probability of Cachero getting a finish here is not that likely. And Cachero's not that dangerous. Lawrence is even less dangerous. Lawrence is one of these guys that just likes to spam takedowns, steal rounds with takedowns, but on the ground, he doesn't really threaten with submissions. He's just kind of looking to hold on to you and, tie you up and stifle you and run the clock down and rack up control time. He's not looking to get ground and pound off. He's not looking to attack with submissions. And standing up, he just doesn't really have any power in his hands. We also know Cachero is pretty tough. He could take a shot. He's a tough Latin American fighter, and he's got a pretty good chin. We saw him in an absolute war in his UFC debut against Jamal Emmers. He took tons of damage against Emmers, hung in there, and Emmers is a lot more dangerous standing than Ronnie Lawrence. If we look at Ronnie Lawrence's record, we can see he does have a few wins inside the distance, but I think this tends to be when he overwhelms guys with the volume that he puts on them, because he does fight at a very high pace. One of Ronnie Lawrence's biggest attributes is that he's got a great gas tank, and he can just go hard non-stop for the full 15 minutes. And I think a lot of people that he faces are going to cave under that pressure, and he'll kind of wear them down and stop them with volume. However, Cachero's not that guy. We've seen him in an absolute war. My dog's going crazy in the background, guys. See, can you just not do that, please? Should you go somewhere else? Is that okay? Sorry for the interruption, guys. How rude. What I was going to say was Cachero, sees. Go away, mate. Cachero took tons of damage in his fight against Emmers, hung in there, tough as nails. Lawrence isn't able to inflict that kind of damage. Lawrence very much primarily a grappler. The reason why I think this fight is very likely to go the distance is just because neither guy is particularly dangerous. So why do I lean towards Cachero to win the decision? Well, if we look at the way that the Nevada State Athletic Commission judges have been scoring these fights over the last sort of 6 months at the Apex Center, we know that they've been repeatedly punishing fighters that just take their opponents down and don't achieve anything with those takedowns or grappling control. In order to get respect from the judges on the scorecards, in the Apex Center, under the Nevada State Athletic Commission, you've got to do something with the position. You've got to either inflict damage or attack submissions, or you've got to completely neutralize your opponent from top position. We were saying this in the recap video from last week. I urge everyone to go and watch the video where we talk about it in more depth. But if you go watch this video that I put out last Monday, we talk a lot about how the Nevada State Athletic Commission are doing a really good job of following the new scoring criteria that came into 2017 and heavily favouring damage inflicted over takedowns and grappling control. And so the problem with Ronnie Lawrence's style is that when he hits takedowns, he just doesn't do anything with it. And on top of that, he doesn't have a very heavy top game. So what you'll quite often notice with Ronnie Lawrence... What you'll quite often notice with Ronnie Lawrence is when he takes his opponents down, he struggles to hold them down, and his opponents are able to pop back up to their feet very, very quickly. Cachero's one of these guys that is pretty difficult to hold down. If we look at Jamal Emmers, he's a big, strong 5'10", 74-inch reach featherweight. This fight is at bantamweight. Ronnie Lawrence is a lot smaller than Emmers. He's nowhere near as physically imposing as Emmers. He's only 5'8" with a 70.5-inch reach. So if Emmers was struggling to hold Cachero down when he hit takedowns, I think Lawrence is going to struggle to hold him down as well, because Emmers' top game is heavier than Lawrence's. So I lean towards Cachero here just because I think this fight's going to go the distance, and I think Cachero's strike is going to be the difference. He's going to be able to leave more of an impression on the Nevada State Athletic Commission judges with the strikes he inflicts, and I think that'll neutralise Ronnie Lawrence's grappling control, which he's probably not going to do a lot with. The only kicker, the only downside to this bet, is that Ronnie Lawrence does have the gas tank to relentlessly spam takedowns for 15 minutes, so that gives him a little bit of an ace up his sleeve, where he could kind of use those takedowns to steal rounds and finish rounds strong. So this isn't like a super safe prop bet, super confident prop bet. None of them are, right? The very nature of prop bets is that they're speculative. But I slightly lean towards Cachero there, so I like him to win by decision. Let's go for the next one. And what do we have here? What do we have, guys? What do we have? Okay, we're going to go for Sabina Mazo to win by knockout or TKO at odds of 7.15. plus 615. I should also say at this point in the live stream that these bets were added to this article like throughout this week. So obviously I've got a website, MMABettingTips.com, and as I research each fight throughout the week, I come to this article and I add prop bets in throughout the week so that every day my members can go onto the pages on my website, see if I've added any new bets and lock them in. So I just wanted to make that clear because these odds might have changed a lot since when I added them, because I've been adding these bets throughout the week, so the odds might have improved, they might have declined. So earlier on in the week we got Marzo to win by knockout at TKO at 7.15, which is plus 615, but that might have changed now. Let's take a look. It's dropped a little bit. It has dropped a little bit, but not much. 6.50, still pretty good. So just in case you were wondering why these odds are very different from the odds you'll get on Best Fight Odds at the moment, it's just because this article is kind of like a working document where we add bets to it throughout the week, and that goes for all the content on my site. As the week progresses, we add more and more bets so that by the end of the week, we've got a really wide range of bets on there. Over-unders, straight bets, prop bets, parlays, the fucking works. Alright. Friends in high places, Guillermo, mate. Alright, let's get into it then. So, Davis Marzo. Why do I like Marzo to win by knockout or TKO? Well, reason why I like Marzo to win by knockout or TKO is because Alexis Davis is very, very bad defensively. We were saying this in the fight research session. If we Google Alexis Davis's name, a lot of the pictures that you see of Alexis Davis are her wearing tons and tons of damage. I mean, look at it there. Tons of damage. Look at her there. Tons of damage. We scroll down to her older fights. I'm sure we can find evidence of her looking very, very damaged in her older fights as well. I think that was Araujo as well. But tons of damage. Looking pretty busted up there a long time ago against Sarah Kaufman. But the point I'm trying to make is Davis is very, very bad defensively. She's very slow, and she relies on that Nate Diaz style of fighting to just come forward with lots of pressure, lots of aggression, to smother her opponent in pressure, bait them into a brawl, and she relies on basically her toughness to out-tough her opponent, and kind of... She just relies on her ability to basically drag her opponent into a brawl. Because of that, she comes forward with a lot of pressure, blocks punches with her face, doesn't mind taking a shot to give a shot, but she just doesn't read her opponent very well. She's very slow, she's very easy to hit. Now, Sabina Marzo is not particularly dangerous, doesn't really have any power in her hands, but she does have a very, very, very nasty head kick. She's extremely accurate with her head kick. She doesn't use it very much, which means when she does throw it, her opponents aren't really ready for it. They tend to get caught off guard a lot because she may only throw the big head kick maybe 2 or 3 times in a fight, which makes it difficult to get a read on her when she's going to throw it. She's very fast with it, very accurate, and delivers fight-ending power with it. She landed it in the 3rd round against Justine Kish to knock Kish down, and ended up jumping on a submission when Kish was still rocked off the head kick. She landed it on JJ Aldrich as well, which hurt Aldrich very, very bad at the end of the 2nd round, which swung momentum in Marzo's favour and enabled her to win the split decision. And if we look earlier on in her career, she's got 2 huge wins by head kick knockout. If you go check out these fights on YouTube, you can see her head kicks are absolutely brutal. So Marzo has got a devastatingly accurate head kick, which he can use to deliver fight-ending power. Davis is quite slow, quite bad defensively, doesn't see the shots coming. Therefore, Marzo to win by knockout at TKO at 7.15, I think is good value. Simple as that. Let's move on to the next one. What have we got next, guys? Let's take a look. Next up, we have got Nikita Krylov to win by submission at odds of 10.50, which is plus 950. So I do like this prop quite a lot. This is the... oh, my nose is acting up a little bit here, guys. Wait a minute. Has my stream died? Has my stream died, guys, or is it still working? Let me know, guys. Let me know, guys, if it's still working. Oh no, YouTube's come back to life. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So, Krylov to win by submission. Right, here we go. Alright, so Ankalaev is a significantly better grappler than Krylov. There's no doubt about it. I have absolutely no doubt that if this fight goes to the ground, Ankalaev has the advantage over Krylov. But remember, we're not betting on most likely outcomes. We're betting on outcomes which have a good risk to reward ratio. Krylov started out his career as one of these guys with a base in Kyokushin karate, but since then he's kind of evolved into a grappler where every single one of Krylov's fights tend to go to the ground. Even in matchups against guys like Fabio Maldonado, where Krylov has a big advantage over Maldonado standing, and Maldonado didn't pose much of a threat to him, Krylov still chose to take this fight to the ground and use ground and pound to cause Maldonado big trouble. So Krylov's one of these guys that's very much, evolved from a striker to a grappler. Now, Ankalaev is very, very good on the ground, very difficult to take down, and he's got a base in combat sambo, so he's a very, very good MMA grappler. However, Ankalaev has shown one chink in his armour in his UFC debut against Paul Craig, where as soon as Craig put Ankalaev in a bad position, he immediately quit. And let's be real, he didn't get submitted here, he quit. It was the weirdest, fastest tap to a submission I've ever seen in my life. Ankalaev was up 3 rounds in this fight. There was only 1 second left to go in the matchup. Paul Craig threw the triangle up, and Ankalaev tapped immediately, within a second. Had he just hung on for 2 seconds, he would have won the fight. But he just immediately tapped. He didn't try and fight through it. He panicked and he quit. If it's an arm bar, if it's a knee bar, if it's some kind of leg lock where you have where you're at risk of having your knee torn apart, your ACL blown, in an arm bar, if you're at risk of having your arm broken, I can understand why you would tap fast. But for Ankalaev to tap so quickly to that triangle makes me think if you put this guy in a bad position, he will quit. Now, no one else since that fight has been able to put him in a bad position because of how good he is. But we know Nikita Krylov is tough, he's scrappy, and he's pretty nasty on the ground. We know Krylov is very, very aggressive with his submissions. He's one of these guys that's very offensive on the ground. He's not looking to, lay and pray and rack up control time. He's looking to take you out. And so, even though Ankalaev is a significantly better grappler than Krylov, because Krylov is so scrappy on the ground, there's a good chance Krylov can put Ankalaev in a bad position. And when he does that, we know Ankalaev is very, very likely to quit based on this Paul Craig fight. This wasn't a bet that I was going to go for until I watched Nikita Krylov against Glover Teixeira. Now, Glover, as we know, is a super high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a strong wrestler, and a very good MMA grappler. He's completely ragdolled guys like Ion Cutelaba and Anthony Smith. We know that, Glover's an absolute nightmare on the ground. Krylov put Glover in 2 extremely bad positions in this fight, which is why it ended up going to a split decision. Krylov took Glover's back, had a really, really deep rear naked choke, forearm under the chin. A lot of guys with a tap to the position Krylov put Glover in, but obviously because Glover's so tough, he's at such a high level on the ground, he was able to stay calm and fight through that rear naked choke position. But if Krylov were able to take Ankalaev's back like that, who knows if Ankalaev would have been able to fight through it. And also Krylov was able to obtain mount on Glover, which is not an easy thing to do either. So, with how easily Ankalaev was made to quit against Paul Craig, I absolutely love Nikita Krylov to win by submission at 10.5, because the Glover fight shows us that Krylov's capable of putting high-level grapplers in bad positions, and Glover's a hell of a lot more experienced on the ground than Ankalaev, so I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, let's keep going. What prop do we have next? Yoda to win by submission. That fight's cancelled, so we can move on from that one. What do we have next? Okay, boom. God, I've only just noticed a lot of these prop bets are at very short odds. So the next one we're going to go for is Pedro Munoz to win inside the distance at odds of 4.30 plus 330. Why do I like this one? Well, it's pretty fucking simple, really. If we look at Jimmy Rivera's record, and I know there will be a lot of people being like, this is a bad prop. Munoz never knocks anyone out. He's a decisionator. The only guy he's ever knocked out is Cody Garbrandt, who's really chinny. You know, Rivera very rarely gets finished. He went the distance with Yan. He went the distance with Sterling. Yada, 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 yada. This is a prop bet. Blah, bad prop. Blah, blah, blah. The wiki cappers are out in force. Fuck the wiki cappers. Fuck the wiki cappers. Fuck them. Fuck the wiki cappers. The wiki cappers in my comments every week. That's a bad bet because so-so has won 3 fights in the last 3 years by armbar, and therefore the chances of them winning by armbar again is very, very high. The fucking wiki cappers, boys. They drive me crazy. Fuck the wiki cappers. We don't give a fuck about win or loss records. All we care about is how fighters match up from a stylistic point of view. And from a stylistic point of view, Pedro Munoz has a really good chance of knocking Jimmy Rivera out. Let me explain. I understand that this will drive the wiki cappers crazy. They'll be like, how can you suggest Munoz to win by knockout? It doesn't make any sense. He's only ever knocked out someone that's chinny. Rivera's barely ever been knocked out. It doesn't compute. The wiki cappers will be, you know, the wiki cappers will not be able to process this information. But there is method to the madness. If we look at Jimmy Rivera's record, we can see that he got dropped twice by Peter Yan. He got sucked into some really reckless exchanges against Cody Stamann, where he looked super fragile and super vulnerable. Obviously, we know Stamann doesn't have the power to hurt him, but against a better boxer, someone with a little bit more power in their hands, I think Rivera could have got himself into trouble against Stamann. And this is from a guy that actually bet Jimmy Rivera in that fight. If we take a look at my results, just so you know, I don't give a fuck. There's no biases here. If you take a look at my results, and we scroll all the way down to the database, you can see, yo, Jimmy's been a money train for me, boys. Jimmy has been a money train. Look at this. I've bet him 4 times and we've gone 3-1. Jimmy's come through for us every time. The only time he cost me money is when I bet against him. Big mistake. Maybe I shouldn't be doubting him tonight. But anyway, I'm a big fan of Jimmy Rivera. Don't think I'm not. I've bet on this guy many, many times. He's a money train for me. But he does get rock dropped, wobbled a lot. And this is partly because he's one of these guys that, because he is a striker and he believes so much in his striking and his own defense and his own ability to read his opponent, when his opponents come forward and attack him, he plants his feet and he fires back, which means you do see him get involved in lots of reckless exchanges. He looked a little bit fragile against Cody Stamann, even though he won. He got dropped twice by Peter Yan. He got death-shotted by Marlon Moraes, and he also got dropped 2 or 3 times by Thomas Almeida. So Jimmy Rivera is one of these guys that even when the fight goes the distance, even when he wins, he often gets dropped. He gets rocked, dropped, wobbled a lot. And we know Pedro Munoz has a great chin, high pressure style of fighting. He loves to come forward, get in his opponent's face, force them to get sucked into reckless exchanges. He baits them into reckless exchanges because of how much pressure he puts on his opponents. And he's also very, very good at cutting the cage off. Rivera's lateral side-to-side movement, circling away from his opponents, isn't great. I do think Munoz is going to have a good amount of success cutting the cage off, which means Munoz is going to be able to bait Rivera into exchanges. And when both these guys get on into exchanges, I think Munoz hits harder, and I know he's got a much better chin. So I think the probability of Munoz knocking Rivera down is very high. But if you look at the prop bet for this fight, notice how we're not taking Munoz to win by knockout or TKO. We're not taking Munoz to win by knockout or TKO. Why? Because Munoz is a very, very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He doesn't have the offensive wrestling to take Jimmy Rivera down, right? Jimmy Rivera's takedown offense and ground game is amazing. But when Munoz knocks his opponents down, his first instinct is to jump on top of them and get to that guillotine choke or try to take their back. Obviously, when someone knocks their opponent down, there's two ways they approach it, right? They either jump on top of them and try and get the finish with ground and pound, or some fighters, Donald Cerrone does this quite a lot, some fighters will jump on top of them while they're still dazed, while they're still hurt, before they've had a chance to recover. They will jump on top of them, lock in a tight submission before they even have a chance to realise what's gone on and think about defending it. So it's really important to take Munoz to win inside the distance instead of the win by knockout or TKO. Because if he does knock Jimmy Rivera down, which we've seen Thomas Almeida do, we've seen Mariah Death shot him, we've seen Peter Yan knock him down twice. If Munoz does knock him down, it's unlikely he's going to be looking to finish the fight with ground and pound. He's going to be jumping on guillotines and rear naked chokes. So very, very important to make that distinction. Very important to go with, didn't mean to click that, shit. Very, very important to go with inside the distance instead of knockout or TKO. And I know the wiki cappers, that prop will drive the wiki cappers crazy, but that's why they're still living in their mum's basement, and that's why I'm saving for a fucking helicopter. That's the difference, right? That is the difference. Okay, let's get into the next one. Okay, wow, interesting times. Yo, interesting. Single barrel pump action shotgun rifle is saying too much swearing. I'm really fucking sorry, mate. I will definitely do a better job of trying not to swear as much as I have been. I just get so fucking passionate about these fights. I can't fucking help but swear. I hope that's better for you, dude. Anyway, let's get into the next one. Mayra Bueno Silva against Montana De La Rosa. And this one's very interesting. In the last fight, the last prop, we were talking about Jimmy Rivera, being one of these guys that I think is very, very good, but I think stylistically he could get into a lot of trouble against Pedro Munoz because of his willingness to exchange and the fact that Munoz is pretty good at cutting the cage off and forcing his opponents to fight in an uncomfortable range in which they have to open up and exchange in order to alleviate the pressure he puts on them. So I've got nothing against Rivera, but I do think this is a tough fight for him. This one's very, very interesting because obviously in my YouTube video this week, I told everyone that I think Montana De La Rosa is a very good bet this weekend, and I stand by that. I think the odds are the wrong way round. It did very much surprise me this week how long it took for De La Rosa's odds to start to decline. It was very, very weird. For me personally, I think the odds were the wrong way round on this fight. All week, Bueno Silva was around about 1.70. De La Rosa was around about 2.20. I think the odds were the wrong way round. I think De La Rosa should have been about 1.70. I think Bueno Silva should have been, the slight underdog. Just because De La Rosa's grappling enables her to dictate where the fight takes place. Because Silva's takedown offense is very bad. Anyway, we covered that quickly. So, very important to get through that. Because I do think De La Rosa's a great bet here. It's nice to see her odds finally decline, actually. We got in on her earlier in the week when she was around 2.25, so her odds have dipped a little bit since then. But it's very important to not get married to the fighters that you're betting. In terms of, what I see a lot of the time is, there'll be people betting on, say, for example, I see it all the time, right? For example, there was one guy in the comments of my YouTube video this week just telling everyone that Justin Jacoby was a lock, he's going to win easily, and people get very, very married to certain fighters, and they plant their flag in the ground, and they say, this guy's a lock, this guy's going to win easily, there's no way this guy can lose. And when I see that, it just shows to me a real lack of experience on their part, because MMA is a highly unpredictable sport. Fighters are on a journey of continual self-improvement. They're always learning from mistakes. They're always tightening up weaknesses. And so we never really know what version of both fighters we're going to get on a Saturday night. We've spoken in this video about how Grishin has looked very, very passive over the last, 2 fights in the UFC. But we also know that Grishin has repeatedly and consistently fought against the best fighters in the world for the majority of his career. He looked absolutely phenomenal in the PFL. And for some reason, since he's come to the UFC, he's looked very flat. But for all we know, Grishin could have got fed up with losing, fed up with people talking shit about him online. Maybe Kadyrov has said, if you don't start fighting like you did back in PFL, we're going to put a fucking gun in your mouth and blow your brains out. Grishin, get your shit together, bro. I didn't buy you a fucking Ferrari so you could lie on your ass, getting lay and prayed by Marcin Tybura for 15 minutes. For all we know, Grishin could be coming into this fight tonight, more motivated than ever, and get back to the form that we saw from him in his PFL fights. And so, point I'm trying to make is you always want to be radically open-minded about the way the fights could play out. You want to be very, very open-minded to the fact that there are lots of different ways that these matchups can play out. And our job is to identify all possible likely outcomes, look at the odds, and make a calculation on if there's a good risk to reward ratio in the odds on betting on one of the likely outcomes. And so when we look at the fight between Montana De La Rosa and Mayra Bueno Silva, there are two extremely good value bets on this fight, but taking those good value bets require us to bet on both fighters. So from a stylistic point of view, this is a great matchup for Montana De La Rosa because Silva is very weak off her back, doesn't know how to work her way back up to her feet, doesn't really make any effort to get back up to her feet when she gets taken down. Her only real weapon off her back is the armbar, but as we know, it's very easy to neutralize the armbar. All you've got to do is step over into half guard or side control and you take that armbar away from those positions. De La Rosa likes to fight from half guard, which means if and when she does take Silva down, she's very, very likely to advance into that half guard position, which takes the armbar away from Silva. And on top of that, we know that De La Rosa is quite heavy for top position, just a much better overall grappler than Silva. So for that reason, De La Rosa is a very, very good bet tonight. However, we also know that Silva has a huge advantage when it comes to striking. Absolutely massive advantage. We know that if this fight stays standing, De La Rosa is absolutely screwed. And we've seen De La Rosa take massive amounts of damage in her last fight. We'll just look for a picture right now. We can see Montana De La Rosa. If we look at her, kind of see it there. She's basically broken her nose in her fights against Vivian Araujo and Andrea Lee. Be good if we could find the picture from late on. You kind of see it there. You see it better there. But you can see, yeah. You can see. Obviously, I made my point. Montana De La Rosa is just very, very bad defensively. She can't defend herself standing. And if we Google her against Andrea Lee, we can see a similar sort of thing. There she is against Andrea Lee. Took tons of damage. And she's broken her nose in 2 of her last 3 fights. Just because she's primarily a grappler, right? She's very young in her career. I think she's only 26 years old. She just hasn't developed the striking defense she needs to fight safely against, really technical strikers like Vivian Araujo and Andrea Lee yet. So we know if Mayra Bueno Silva could keep this fight standing, De La Rosa's in big trouble and she's going to take a lot of damage. And remember what we said a few moments ago. Fighters are on a continual journey of self-improvement. Mayra Bueno Silva is an amazing striker. She's one of the best strikers in the division. She's vicious, nasty, aggressive, hits very hard. Because of her style, because of how aggressive she is, I actually think she poses more of a threat to De La Rosa standing than Araujo or Andrea Lee posed. Because Araujo has kind of got this bouncy in and out capoeira style where she bounces in and out of range throwing single strikes. Andrea Lee has kind of got that more traditional kickboxing style where she chips away at her opponent, picks her shots, doesn't put too much pressure on him, likes to fight in kickboxing range. And of course, De La Rosa alleviated a lot of Andrea Lee's pressure with multiple takedowns in that fight. So I know that, again, the way I'm talking will drive Wiki Cappers crazy because I'm saying I think Silva's a tougher fight for De La Rosa in terms of striking than Araujo versus Lee was. So people that oversimplify this sport will say, well, if De La Rosa had a tougher matchup when it came to striking against Lee and Araujo and she lost against both those girls, how can you say she's now a good bet against an even better striker or a more dangerous striker in Silva? And it's just simple. Just because, Araujo's got very good takedown defense, she's difficult to hold down. Lee's got a tremendous ability to scramble back up to her feet, whereas Silva's very, very weak off her back. But the point I'm trying to get to is Silva's only really got one weakness. Her takedown defense is extremely bad. Her ground game is extremely bad. So if she's smart, she's going to understand that those are the things that she needs to work on, right? If Silva improves her takedown offense, or at the very least figures out how to work her way back up to her feet when she does get taken down, Silva's going to be a force in this division because her striking is nasty. So we've got to be radically open-minded and think, based on past performances, the most likely outcome here is De La Rosa finds herself in a little bit of trouble standing, but she should be able to get Silva to the ground and rack up big top control before Silva causes too much of a problem to her standing. However, if Silva's been in the gym every single day since September, drilling takedown defense, or every time she gets taken down, drilling exploding back up to her feet, and she comes into this fight with much better takedown defense than we've seen from her in the past, and a much better ability to work back up to her feet than we've seen from her in the past, De La Rosa might be absolutely fucking screwed, because Silva's got vicious, devastating, evil leg kicks, big power in her hands, and she's nasty in the clinch. We know De La Rosa is a sitting duck standing. We know Silva is a sitting duck on the ground. But I personally believe it's much more likely Silva improves her takedown offense and ground game than De La Rosa were to improve her striking. So I think Mayra Bueno Silva to win by knockout or TKO at 19.0. I don't know what the odds are now. I posted this bet to the website on Monday, I think. I don't know what the odds are looking like now. Shit, they've declined a lot. They've declined a lot. Well, they've declined a lot. I don't like it as much as 7.0. I posted this bet on Monday. I don't know what to tell you. It was 19.0 on Monday. It's obviously been steamed. The problem with prop bets are liquidity is very, very low, so it doesn't take much money to move the odds. Obviously, if all my members have jumped on that on Monday, the odds have got absolutely steamed. It's not bad at 7.0. I didn't think it would have declined that much. I thought maybe down to like 11.0, 12.0, something like that. That's a pretty big drop, actually. I'm not sure. You guys are going to have to make a judgment call on that one, man. Those odds have got absolutely murked, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, you know, if Silva could keep the fight standing, I'll say this. If Silva can keep the fight standing, I don't see De La Rosa being able to survive 3 rounds. Silva's just way nastier than Araujo and Lee. De La Rosa's going to have to get his fight to the ground or she's screwed. So if we go into the next one, let's go to the next one. We got one more prop. Yeah, we've got the final prop, guys. And then if you've got any questions, drop your questions in the live chat, guys, and I will if you drop your questions into the chat, boys, I will fly through the chat and answer as many of your questions as I can, guys, once we're done with this prop. So I don't know what the odds are on this. So Cyril Gane to win by submission at odds of 6.0. I can't remember who it was. Someone actually recommended this on the Fight Research live stream. So big shout out to whoever recommended this prop. I think it was a great shout out, whoever suggested that. I don't know what the odds are now. Gane to win by submission are going to be... let's take a look. Can't find it. Where is it, guys? I have my blind. I can't actually see. I can see submission in rounds, but not straight up submission. There it is. So it's declined a bit. It has declined a bit. So it has declined a bit down from 6.0. Anyway, I like Gane to win by submission here. Because if you take a look at Gane's record, he's only had 7 pro fights. And if you look at his career performances, 4 of his 7 career fights have ended by submission. We've got one there, one there, one there. And actually, that's not true. I meant to say something different. 4 of his career... Sorry, let me start again. 3 of his 4 career finishes have come by submission, right? Front choke, arm triangle choke, heel hook. 1 of his finishes came on the ground due to ground and pound. So Gane, even though we think of Gane as a striker, when you go back and watch Gane's fights, you can see he actually uses a lot of grappling in his fights. We know Rozenstruik's got a really, really bad takedown offense. Rozenstruik is also incredibly weak off his back. When he was taken down by Alistair Overeem and Junior Albini, he had absolutely no idea how to defend himself on the ground. You know, Albini was able to pass his guard like he'd never even taken a jiu-jitsu class. And so if Gane comes into this fight with a grappling heavy game plan, I think he's going to be able to get this fight to the ground and do whatever he wants to Rozenstruik. And there's a pretty good chance he'll submit him, because we can see 3 of his 7 career fights have ended by submission. Rozenstruik is so bad on the ground that Gane stands a huge chance of winning this fight by sub. Anyway, what we will do now, guys, I'll leave these bets up in the background, and I'll leave these bets up in the background, and then I will scroll through as many comments as I can. I'll just scroll back up a little bit. We'll go through the comments, boys. I'll get through as many as we can, and then I'll be done here for tonight. All right. Okay. Any comments? I'm working on it. Beep beep in my Jeep, dude. I'm not really a fan of over under parlays, mate. I struggle to find one over under bet that I like on a card. I couldn't imagine trying to find multiple ones for parlays, dude. It's very difficult for me. So I'll leave those up in the background. So I'm not too keen on that idea personally, dude. So we'll just run through, see if we got any questions. Appleman, prop of the week. Silver by knockout at TKO at 19.0. Yeah, I do love it, dude. I do love it. I love it. Appleman, I love that, dude. I've bet Montana De La Rosa tonight, but I think those odds are absolutely fucking mental. Oh, so Appleman is saying these odds are still available on some sites. In fact, let's take a look at that. So if we go to best fight odds, where is it? So it's 30. So 9.0 on Sports Interaction is a shit betting site. I can't imagine anyone uses that. But 9.0 on William Hill. 13.0 on Intertops is a shit one as well. Let's have a look on Odds Checker. I'm not too sure. Get my whiskey, dude. I haven't checked the start time yet. It was supposed to be 10 PM UK time, right? But I haven't checked since the Yoda Hill fight got cancelled. So yeah, it's saying 10.0. Maybe you just have to shop around a little bit, man. Appleman saying it's still available on some sites. Alright, let's go through these questions, man. Fightology is saying, have we discussed the UFC Top Shot deal? I haven't heard about this, dude. Oh, the old... Oh, right. I did see Gary V talking about this week. Gary V tweeted about it, right? He said that NFTs for the UFC are going to be a game changer. Has he said anything else about it? To be honest, mate, I can't really understand... I just can't really understand NFTs, mate. I just don't understand why anyone would be interested in them. That's just me personally, dude. I understand like digital art. Yeah, he's saying there UFC NFT is going to be lit. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion, mate. The whole NFT thing's a little bit weird to me. I can understand like why people would be interested in buying an NFT for digital art, digital unique art. But I don't understand why people would buy like an NFT for like a clip of a knockout or something. That's just a little bit weird to me. I don't Maybe I'm just too old. I'm old as fuck, right? I'm 37 years old. So maybe I'm just not understanding it, but I'm not really seeing the whole... Like, I don't know why someone would buy a video clip. It's a bit weird to me. BJ is saying that was the weirdest tap ever. With Ankalaev against Paul Craig. Yeah, it was a weird one, right, dude? And you know what? TJ Kill bringing up a really good point. He's right. The sub last week in that Aspinall-Arlovsky fight was weird as well, because Aspinall jumped on his neck. He did have his forearm under Arlovsky's chin. Didn't have any hooks in, though. Didn't have control of Arlovsky's body. And Arlovsky didn't even try and turn into the choke. He just insta-tapped. It was a weird one. BJ is saying, I choke blue belts every day with those kind of chokes. And the little fucks grimace and wheeze and make noises before tapping. And then go again and again and again for no money or fame. Yeah, you're right, dude. You're right, BJ. It was a weird one, right, mate? Well said, BJ, dude. TJ Kill is saying nothing suspicious about quick tapping the chokes. Is real. It's a panic thing, very hard to overcome. Do you know what, dude? I do agree with you if the fighter's really inexperienced. But, you know, Ankalaev, when he fought Paul Craig, he'd had 10 pro MMA fights, spent a ton of time, you know, in competitive fights against guys in decent promotions, against experienced opponents. He's a master of sport in combat sambo. Just a little bit weird, man, how he would panic in a situation like that with how experienced he was. Looks like everyone wants more swearing. Sorry, boys. I'll try and tone the swearing down, man. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the background noise, guys. My wife has just come home, and so once the dog... The dog will shut his face now, guys. So not too many questions, people just talking about different fights. Artem Labov saying, would you ever recommend bets on multiple outcomes in a single fight? We kind of have, right? Because we're betting Montana to win, but then we're also betting Silva to win by knockout. Ampfit is saying, best bet for tonight, I think De La Rosa. Broadcastful is saying, I'm surprised you aren't taking Ankalaev by decision at 4.0. It's the better prop for this fight. I do like that one, dude. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, mate. Yeah, definitely, Brian. All in on Rozenstruik by Subman. Definitely, dude. Yo, Scotty, we need to get back. We need to get back to the video. Oh, I gotta put the props on in the background, right? Need to get back to the video games, dude. I will. I'll get back on the video games. Well, we don't have many questions tonight, guys, so I think that is gonna be it. Thank you all for watching, everybody. I think we're done. Thank you very much. Appleman, no, I haven't got a prop for Krum Caceres, dude. So that is it, boys. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Hopefully these props bank a profit. Fingers crossed. If not, if they don't bank a profit, hopefully we just don't get wrecked on them. Anyway, thank you for watching, everyone. Take care. Love you all, and I will see you all